the apocalypse is still a great thing to do.
Today is May 17th, 2020. It is 7:54 in the morning. We're on time today. Hooray. And this is the Bored State Podcast. My name is Jeffrey Veia, and I am joined with...
Jack.
Good morning, Jack.
Good morning.
We are a weekly show, weekly podcast, weekly show where we cover 10 topics of indie design sweetness with an emphasis on tabletop game design
And positive change.
and gaming for social good. All right. And our first article of today is, well, actually, hold on, let's take a pause. How are you, sir?
Oh, pretty good. Going to the beach, shotgunning at the coronavirus, you know?
Yeah, I was talking to a friend last night, and he was saying that people are all going to the malls and everything, and looks like society is back to walking around.
Well, to a degree, yes, but to a degree, no. Down where I live, most of us is still isolated in our homes and keeping our distance because we mostly respect our elders over here on this side of the island.
Amen.
And so, even though we had, the lowest amount of cases on the island, we still are resolved.
Yeah.
But it's kind of been like that always, but even more so. No.
Yep. All right. First article today is by the Washington Post, and this is Indie Games to Play in May. And we're going to scroll all the way down. And this is an article that just showcases some really good indie games that are coming out, which are fine, like Streets of Rage 4, very cool game. But we're going to ignore all of those games and go right to a gem that I found here by developer Everest Pipkin, and it is called The Gift Game. Can you tell us a little bit about this gift game, Jack?
So, basically, if you want to have, this whole idea of, a secret society or, SCP Foundation, this one is probably your best bet because it goes very meta right away. And a lot of things that seem mundane and ironic or just out of place actually has more deeper meanings. For example, the second page has a sound bite. And though the sound bite alone is basically, you could describe it as you're walking in a beach or on a beach of some sort. But it goes on to a point where you could actually go through the entire game with this entire sound bite on still. And it even goes into a vector scan, which you will see in ARGs or stuff like that. So this game has a lot of templates if you want to go for example, how to create a thematic that you're a government agent or you're someone searching for something mysterious, Gravity Falls or something like that. Or how do you create a journal, but it's not a journal.
Yeah, this game is... Oh, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it may be a short 30 minutes, but it's gonna make you wonder life, exactly. So, have fun!
Yeah, this game really stood out to me. To describe what this game is it's on a website, and it uses like an inner HTML type of element, and the game is played just on this website, and you're interacting with this window by clicking to the next window.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think your audio is on for the next article. Or is that me?
Huh?
Hold on. That is me. The second article that we're going to talk about has an annoying video that keeps popping up. Anyway, let's take a step back. So the GIF game is played within the browser. Is played on the browser in an inner HTML type of element, and you're interacting with that element, and you're just following like a sequence of inputs, really, right? Like this game is so meta. Like it's so metaable and so meta, which is why I really appreciate it. And yeah, it's an experimental game, which is the type of game that really draw my attention. Developed by Everest Pipkin, which is he is a visiting faculty member at Carnegie Mellon University, and it's almost like the game itself is like a haiku to kind of put it into an analogy, and you're just experiencing each sentence or each what is that called in a poem? Like I guess each sentence. I thought there's like a term. Thank you. That's exactly what it is, right? And like line by line, you're experiencing each stanza as the poem or the haiku progresses. And I've been really digging these like 5-minute to 10-minute to 30-minute games. I mean, not just because of a lack of time, but it's this new emerging type of game that gameplay that I really appreciate. So yeah, I highly recommend taking a look and trying this GIF game. It's free. It came out of the Speculation Jam 2020, which I know nothing about. I imagine it's some kind of cool game jam. And yeah, check it out. Support games like this. I love this kind of stuff.
Same.
Okay. All right. So that was the GIF game. You can find the GIF game on Everett's site at everestpimpkin.itch.io. But the article, yep, and that. But the article is from WashingtonPost.com, and like Jack mentioned, all the links of what we're talking about is going to be posted below. Or yep. So you don't have to write anything down or pause to open up another browser. Okay, next game. This is a Jack find. Very surprised. And
I'm sorry, guys.
And this is a game I know nothing about. This is a game called Animal Crossing, and the article is called "Here's Why People Can't Stop Playing Animal Crossing According to Science," and this is by WUSA9.com. What is this article about, Jack?
So basically, how most studies on gaming goes, they like to tackle on the psychology and the brains of the players, because at the end of the day, how we get published and how we get the money is if the players are willing to play our games. And so this article basically goes into very lengthy detail on just the overarching psychology of an average player that goes into Animal Crossing, and also how the psychology treats them into staying there. For example, like Mr. V or Jeff said earlier, that he's a part of like a community of podcasts, that he's a part of a community that actually works together in hopes to gain more monetary value in game currency. And so they have their whole market shares like you see in like SWTOR or World of Warcraft and those type of MMOs. So combining with like all of these cutesy factors, and it being from Nintendo, having that already of a family appeal, all of that plays a factor in the psychology of the player base. And so this article, though it isn't detailed in certain areas is a great study guide if you want to replicate or if you want to learn. Because, like, if you want to avoid doing EA's failures or Activision failures, then find articles like this that will teach you more and more about the inner workings of players and what do they want in actuality and not what you may want as a game developer.
Yes, exactly. One of so let me just unpack a couple of things from this article directly that really stood out to me. And the first one is, this is right from the article. Animal Crossing is meant to be ordinary. It presents a most regular, everyday world. That's why I try to call to mind the actual experiences you find during everyday life. And the more inconsequential thoughts and feelings that come up in the ordinary, dramatical daily life, the composer begins the game's low-key music, Kazumi Takada. But it's not just the game's design that makes it perfect quarantine pastime. It's also become a socializing tool for friends and family members who are separated during the pandemic. Very, very cool. And that's something that I'm not using it too much for, but like my wife definitely is. So we have multiple Switches. So yeah, I know. And what?
I was just gonna say, yeah, you guys you don't know the game, yeah.
Right. So another thing to extract out is the game's capacity for social interaction is noteworthy. Dr. Colbert, who studies gaming's social and psychological impacts, particularly among vulnerable populations like socially anxious, lowly, or geographically isolated people. Her research shows that the socializing function in games like Animal Crossing can lead to health benefits like boosted immune system and greater cognitive functionality, or greater cognitive functioning. Games are great for stress reduction, they are great for socially connecting, and they are great learning tools. Research has found that games can be associated with learning things like persistence and resilience and growth mindset. Amazing! One more thing to unpack here. A 2009 East Carolina University study drew similar conclusions. Facilitators measured the heart rate and brain activity of participants who played casual video games. The researchers found that the players experience physical, physical, kinesthetic changes consistent with increased mood and decreased physical stress. So, man, how cool is that? Of course, I think it's important to have a balance. Go outside, run around, bake some bread, as well. So it's everything in moderation, right? So yeah, great find. There's more medical things that are cited in this article. Really cool find, Jack. I was reviewing the notes last night to talk about this today. And I couldn't remember if I actually put this in our notes or Jack did it. So I messaged Jack. I'm like, did you put this in? He's like, yep, just for you.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so that is why people can't stop playing Animal Crossing, a game I know nothing about, according to science. I play a little bit of it. Right.
I would love for you to post in the description how many hours you actually play on Animal Crossing.
So it does actually say that. And I remember someone was boasting on, messaging on Facebook or something. Someone posted they capped 200 and something hours on Animal Crossing. And I just gave a little smirk. I'll just say that. All right. Actually, I'm not. So I'm a late comer to Animal Crossing, and I only get to play in the evenings and then on the weekends. And my wife pretty much plays from 7 o'clock to 2 in the morning or something like that every day.
Yeah.
Okay. Next article by thestarphoenix.com. The best board games I've played. This old CFL simulation packs a punch. What is this article about, Jack?
So it's basically about just how quirky games can be and how unique games can be in all sense. And all of our experience can be different. For example, my first experience playing with any game was Goldfish, and that was probably my most memorable one. All of us are human. That means all of us had a different journey that we went on to get to where we are in gaming. Whether that is being an esports player, that being a gaming developer, a game producer, a game musician, all of these things we all had to start it from actually playing a game. And so this was one of basically our Calgary's journey into gaming. And as funny and as like typical sports guy or go into this because he loves sports and stuff like that, it's actually more in depth than that. And the game itself, even though it talks about sports and mainly is a simulation of it, it's mainly basically showcasing the early days of simulation gaming. Simulation gaming wasn't a video game, it was a genre. And so a lot of games came out in board game format that had to be detailed, choreographed, and had lots of charts and graphs. So unlike in modern day gaming where they could tell it using visuals. So it's just showcasing this like whole design concept, though not lost, but it's not really, it's more put on the side compared to more of the visual content we have. So showing new ideas also.
Man, this is really cool. I'm really interested in systems and converting systems in everyday life, mundane systems, to gaming systems, and then finding those mundane systems to be interesting by exploring a topic. And I'm not saying that football is mundane whatsoever, but I'm just using it as an example to like take something like, I don't know, postal delivery or something just mundane and monotonous, converting it into a game, either through tabletop or through a video game, and then finding out how complex and beautiful something mundane like that can be. And so too, things like football or even war simulations, like these simulation games that they had. Well, they're still around, but not as much as 70s and 80s. These very complex mechanical systems that really do their best to showcase the complexity of, say, artillery fire, like how to hit a target using 15 pages of graphs
Right.
and charts and things like that, right? I think it's very cool, like exploring the science behind it. And then also like in football, right? Like converting what, how does defense act against the offense, right? Like how do you actually throw that ball? Is it dice? Is it a series of cards that you draw and add up the numbers, or whatever it is, right? I just love exploring mechanics like that, and especially things that I'm not particularly interested in outside of gaming, I then become interested in it inside.
Right. And this game, though it's talking about football, I much emphasize, if you could replicate this using a different theme, you just hit the goal, man, because not that many people is using this system.
That's a really cool cool comparison there. Taking, say, a German World War II game and then converting the mechanics to a fishing simulator. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a really cool find. I love this. I love doing that with board games as well, to find games that are of a subject that I'm particularly not interested in. So there, to give you a example, there's games where you can create like fashion clothes, like postmodern or Renaissance clothes, and like a factory or whatever. Just that's something that I would definitely not be interested in whatsoever. However, in a semi-competitive or cooperative environment, it becomes very stimulating to create these
No,
clothes.
I would say like it depends on the time, like the time period. So like if it's like Renaissance, then yeah, I'm sign me up. Or like World War II, sign me up.
Wow, so that could be a game, creating uniforms for soldiers in a time of war, taking the materials from like recently deceased soldiers,
Yeah.
and then making armor or uniforms.
Could you imagine like in that game you like build and then you turn like say like the red coats, you turn the red coats into like purple coats.
Yeah. Okay. Let's steer the tangent train back.
We're going in
Yeah.
tangents.
Yeah, we are. Okay. Awesome find, Jack. That is the best board games I've ever played. This old CFL simulation packs a punch, and that's the starphoenix.com. Okay. This next article. So happy. Oh, my thing is happening again. All right, I'm going to close. Sorry, Animal Crossing, but your video is just playing over and over and over and over.
I thought you loved Animal Crossing.
No, I love Animal Crossing, but there's that background. That article's video just keeps playing in the background, and it's like 3 people in the conversation versus 2. Okay. Board Game Geek News. So this is BoardGameGeek.com in their news section. My favorite designer in the whole wide world has started a blog, and I just wanted to do a signal boost on this. I love everything this guy does. This is Friedemann Friese, and he started a blog called I think it's called Game Designer Lockdown. No. The Game Designer Lockdown, and this can be found. Well, you can go to our show notes, and I'll go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. It's called The Fight. We're gonna fight them all. No, I'm sorry. That's his game.
Fight isn't over till it's over.
It is called The Game Designer Lockdown. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Friese, but your thoughts. So let's say your thoughts on the importance of game designers creating a blog.
I say we need to, or at least keep a journal of our things. Even though it's hard to do, especially when in a journal, you're gonna have to admit to your failures and stuff. But overall, it will allow you to grow as a person, especially as a game developer, because you're putting down both your achievements and your mistakes on this paper. And nobody say you have to be a blog or a comment or a post. It could just be as simple as typing up on a journal that only you're gonna see or only your family gonna see. As long as you keep on writing or have done it before, it allows you to see how you've grown or see that how much efforts you still need to do. As a way of, this is your marker in life, this is where you could go from here now. Because once you get it done, you will see improvements in life in general. Honestly, once I started writing my own journal, I started to be more productive in coming up with ideas and with more newer stuff I'm more open to than I was prior to making this journal. So ideas will flow better if you put your thoughts down on paper.
Yep. One of the things he notes in his first post is to be a game designer without the regular game nights meetings and without having different gaming partners is hard. And that is something that is very true right now. And we are all in semi-quarantine at this point, but still for the most part in quarantine and in isolation.
I wouldn't say quarantine, I say fear of the virus more. Because to a degree, like, yeah, we're going out of it now that people are recovering, but there is still a fear like it will come back in the December time, you know? So,
Got it.
yeah.
Thank you. So, like I was going to say, most of us are still in quarantine, working from home for the most part. And like Friese mentions in his first article, is not having the tools and the means to have a regular gaming night or to have these game design discussions is really, really hard, especially for him, well, for all of us. And I think what we have to do is we have to evolve. We have to more. We're talking a lot about this at a meeting last night, but how things have changed moving forward. For example, our group, right? We are continuing to design Havina, a game that we're about 2 months out, I would say, from completion. And I think the design itself was accelerated because of technology, right? We were able to use Skype and Discord and things like that to meet up and to play test instantly, right? Like, you know, we could on a dime message each other and say, hey, I got a really good idea for the game. Can we link up really quick over Skype or whatever? And then, you know, turn on your phone camera and walk through a couple of ideas and get feedback immediately. Versus, hey, let's meet up on Saturday or Friday night, right, at 7:30. I have this idea that I want to share with you guys, right? And, you know, doing things that way. And, you know, of course you could do a combination of both. I'm not saying that being in physicality, in physical proximity of your fellow designers isn't important. I think it definitely is, right? Definitely is. What I'm just saying is that we have to also begin to use technology and tools available to better leverage game design. Right? All right.
Yeah.
It's a little rant, but okay. So that was Friedemann Friese wants you to fight monsters at home. I love that title topic. I love that. So cool. Board King Geek News. Buy all Friedemann Friese's games. He is an amazing, brilliant game designer. Okay. I'm only missing a couple. I'm trying to track down all his games. Okay. Next article is by comonews.com, and this is I gave up on life. Despair leads to new hope for video game addicts. What is this article about, Jack?
So I decided to showcase this article just to show the contrast in everything. Less there's gonna be good things, but also there's always a negative to anything in life. And so if you push yourself too much into any genre or any topic, you will inevitably get basically down in a despair setting, because you're now doing it as like, oh, I need to, when in natural you don't need to. And even though it's talking about like the player base in general, a lot of game developers gets this because of like, oh, my gaming setting, maybe I should change this, or maybe I should try and go out, do this or do that, which causes them even more so to go down into a downward spiral. But it's just that as humans, we need to just find a way to have a balance in life. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to underdo it. And the only person who could tell you that is you. And so referring back to like this whole journal idea of writing yourself on posts or talking to people, basically those things will help counteract what this article is basically talking about. This whole concept of despair in gaming and how it really corrupts people if it's not checked. But yeah.
So first of all, this is an article about technology addiction and gaming
Yeah.
addiction, right? And there is an organization called Restart, and they provide therapy for video game and technology addiction. Now, just to highlight, that is an actual thing. And, I mean, you can be addicted to anything, right? I mean, anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know there's a lot of naysayers that just say get a grip with video game addiction, but the root causes are often universal for just quote unquote addiction, but the thing that you focus on is what's different, right? So, if you're abused or you had some form of traumatic event, you then look for a means of escape or a something a pillow to lie your head on, right? So that pillow may be a crack pipe or maybe a PlayStation 4 controller, right? So the outcome of that traumatic experience, that addictive experience, may be directed at anything. So I think this is really cool. For one, it's also very cyberpunk.
CD Projekt Red, please sponsor us, please.
Okay, but yeah, so these as we evolve as humans and as technology changes, these are the things that are going to start coming up, right? I can foresee a future where things like this become definitely more prevalent. But I mean, other things like maybe there'll be laws that are created that govern humans getting married to robots or to non-physical or getting married to a non-human or humanly created object, right? Like these are like real things that can happen in the future, right? So I'm always
the near future.
Yeah. So I'm always really interested in this is definitely a product of society becoming more technological, but at the same time, these deep-rooted traumatic experiences that happened since the beginning of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's a cool find. Thank you. Sorry, do you have something else to add?
Yeah. So, but just to lead on to that, it started since we began as humans, all these traumatic experiences, but it will keep on happening. So this issue, though it's tackled right now, and though the naysayers may be like, but it's not gonna happen in the future. It will. The difference is it will just evolve, like how it evolved from drugs to video games. The next subject may be on board games. We don't know what the future will hold.
Yeah. So that is ComoNews.com. I gave up on life. Despair leads to new hope for video game addicts. All right, next article. So this is about a small little indie thing going on, which is what we like to focus on. This is GeekWire.com. Microsoft Xbox legend J Allard gets back in the game, joining Intellivision for new console launch. What is this article about, Jack?
So it's about this humble game developer called J Allard and how his... never mind, just kidding. Anyways, Xbox is gonna win. Okay, from the joking aside, it's really about the ramifications of him coming back to Xbox. But I wanted to showcase this article just to showcase the whole idea of that gaming is still expanding and it still will continue to welcome you back, even though you may have put it for a side for a bit or even left the industry. Gaming, once you're into it, no matter what you are, whether you're a game developer, game producer, game musician, esports, whatever you may be, it will be a part of your life and it will follow you no matter what, for good or bad. And so his story, aside from like what he accomplished and what he's planning to do with Xbox and Microsoft, it's mainly about this whole idea of game developers still being welcome back to the industry even though they left it. No matter how bad of a state they were in, whether it was for physical reasons, traumatic reasons, whatever it may be, it's just this whole, you could always come back as resurgent as you were back in the day. Unlike in the music industry, well, once you leave it, it's like, oh, you're a one-hit wonder. Nobody will remember you. People still remembers your deeds and all of your accomplishments. Even, like, it's 2020, and not that many people may have known him from, like, 2011, but they know what he did because of the Xbox and how good it was. So, yeah.
One of the other things that the article points out is this new console that's supposed to come out in October called the Intellivision Amico video game system. And the new game system planned for release in October is billed as a way to bring people together again around video games. Amico will come with 2 controllers and is preloaded with 6 premium games at a price starting at $249. No bad language, graphic violence, blood, or sexual content. Every game on Amico is E-rated for everyone, Intellivision says on their website. So I'm really interested in what this new system has to offer, and I hope it does really well. Very, very cool. And the games are going to be priced at about $2.99 to $9.99. No ads or downloadable content. Loot boxes are in-game purchases, and the library will range from sports and recreation, education, brain games, party games, and retro classics to favorable tabletop games. So this sounds really neat. I love how that controller looks. It looks like the old Dreamcast memory stick where there's just like a little LCD panel with like a dial in the middle. Yeah, very, very cool, man. I love this. Love this. All right. That is on the GeekWire.com. Microsoft Xbox legend J Allard gets back in the game, joining Intellivision for new console launch. Okay. TheVerge.com. This next article gets me in the feels here. How public arts funding helps developers make unique and more diverse games. Jack, your thoughts on this article?
Okay. Games can be diverse in the many of factors. Could be religious diversity, could be skin diversity, or ethnicity diversity. But it's all up to the game developer and what is his or her or they or she or whatever you may be called message. And it's honestly that different indie games and different indie developers who have unique ideas and unique concepts but don't have the opportunity to fund it like how we do, or like how Toby Fox was able to do. Like, they don't have that safety net or that safety guard. But organizations having these concepts and having these new ideas being funded by them gives more game developers comfort in, oh, I don't have to work with EA, or I don't have to work for Activision, or I don't have to worry about not paying for the bills because I'm an indie dev. Because now I have a safety net. Now I'm guaranteed that I will be paid for my deeds. Because as much as we all want to say, oh, of course, I will be the hero, if you're not getting paid, eventually you want to become the villain. So this article just gives you a lot more details on like how is the state of it. Is it a viable option? And in my opinion, yes it is. And how may you be able to get onto it? But yeah.
So check this out, listeners. Film Victoria, which was founded by the Victorian state government in Australia, started investing in games over 25 years ago and is one of the oldest public video games funds. Let me say that one more time. Film Victoria, which was founded by the Victorian state government in Australia, started investing in games over 25 years ago and is one of the oldest public video game funds. Man, why are other countries so cool?
Okay, so I'll go Poland, you go Australia, so that way we could do, we get 2 investors, yeah?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is just amazing. This article. Yeah, so this article definitely underscores what you mentioned. The reason why I included this article is I wanted to showcase the importance for funding the arts. Right, in America right now, there's the arts and music. Well, just the arts funding from the government is just getting cut everywhere, and and it's there is definitely an argument there. Why fund the arts, right? Which I don't believe there's an argument there personally, but this article showcases, or this article is a flag bearer for funding the arts, and I feel it's so important to continue to fund the arts, because the arts leads directly to imagination, and when you have the imagination, anything is possible.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And the Untitled Goose Game is freaking amazing, which is what led to the creation of the Untitled Goose Game.
So, like, one of the main things that a lot of people will say, to mention off of the argument, because I know I met with a lot of guys down here that actually say, we only need the military because still the smart people, but not that many people actually knows or even want to admit that if we have all of our baskets in one industry, when that industry collapses, we're screwed, no matter what. For example, if we went to war, yeah, the military is good, but since we're in a pandemic, the military is not so good now.
Yep. Well said.
Diversification, guys.
Okay, so that is TheVerge.com, how public arts funding helps developers make unique and more diverse games. Amen. Next article, Bayani and Ranida Game's humble but heroic development story. Ranida Game seeks to immortalize Filipino heroes in their own way. This is by TheRapper.com. Can you speak to this article, Jack?
Yes, so it's Portuguese number 1. Never mind. So, wow. In all seriousness, this is what exactly that we want to encourage. More games taking real-life events or real-life heroes that meant something to them and put it on a platform for them to share. Like, a hero is someone that inspires you and others to do good. Not to do bad, but to do good in any sense of form. So, like, for example, one of the notes they even put down here is Rio. And then his historical inspiration, basically, he doesn't look like the character, but his story is similar to the historical inspiration. And so, oftentimes you see history is more real and more creative than fiction. And a lot of ideas that was implemented in fiction can be traced back to historical records or historical figures. So by having people and being inspired by them, you don't have to be like, oh, we want to diversify. You could just say, I want to take this story and use it in a creative sense. I know for a fact that Street Fighter, a lot of those characters were inspired by the whole ideals or ideologies that each of their countries has. Like Japan have like an honor system. Reason why Ryu is so they want to be the honorable person. while you have a sergeant, I forgot his name, but
Guile?
like a sergeant, yeah, Sergeant Guile, who's like the stereotypical American Marine. Like all of these ideals went from their characters. Same with those stories for his so great inspiration.
Yeah, I love this article. This is exactly why we do this cast, to signal boost things like this. This is a Filipino-made Street Fighter who uses reference material of their historical leaders.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That is perfect because, then what happens, right? Their kids start playing this, people start playing this, they like a character, they find out, oh, this character was actually inspired by some historical figure. No. Boom. They go and look up that historical figure, and they're like, oh, wow, that's really cool, especially for Filipinos. So I have a lot of Filipino friends, and I remember getting into discussions about them, about their history, and how they have just, with colonization, right? Like how colonization happened in the Philippines and the Catholic Church coming in, and a lot of their traditional animistic practices have virtually become extinct because of Catholic Church, and that's what they do.
Yeah, the
conversion, things like that. So, like for example, we have a large number of Filipinos living in Hawaii, and if you look at their homes, for example, especially if they own their homes, they have a lot of like Spanish Catholic type of like color palette and architecture, like on their roofs and things like that. And it's, I don't think it's just an artistic direction. I think it's a sign of, forgive me for saying this, but indoctrination, right? So going back to this games like this can open the gateway to their traditions, things that aren't really being talked about. These topics can be explored in gameplay.
Yeah, and also this whole concept of a legacy. Like, for example, a noble, good musical that I will keep on mentioning if we keep on having articles relating to it is Alexander Hamilton. Before that, no one gave a rat's beep about the $10 bill. After that, almost everybody was like, oh, look, Alexander Hamilton, oh yeah, I'm gonna collect it, and stuff like that. Like, there's that, and then there's this. Like, there is different ways you could inspire people and use historical sources. But at the end of the day, you're gonna be uplifting their legacy, whether it's Alexander Hamilton or whether it's Kamehameha, or I cannot pronounce that name, I'm sorry, I don't want to get attacked by the Filipinos. So, but yeah, it's just like all of these leaders are dead, so they cannot tell you those stories, but by keeping their stories alive, they will continue to be able to tell those stories.
Their true story, not the story of indoctrination.
Yeah.
Especially as a underrepresented minority, right?
Yeah.
All right. Woo! So, Bayani and Ranida Game's humble but heroic development story. Right on, guys. Okay. Next article is by Gamma Sutra. Spend some time before we talk about link the Gamma Sutra site. They do some amazing stuff. Check them out as well. And the topic is What It Takes to Stay in the Game Industry by Alwyn Lee. Jack, your thoughts on this?
Okay, like we keep on mentioning and like we keep on saying, this is gonna be a weekly thing as long as you keep on finding articles on it. Continue to work on your skills, even though traumatic events, even though the world may be under the apocalypse, is still a great thing to do. no matter what it is, whether it's shooting or construction walking or game development. And finding new ways to master them and continually to learn new skills from them is always a great endeavor to do. This article is one such thing. Literally, Gamma Sutra, if you want new ideas, just go on their website. But honestly, this is basically teaching you more or reinstating you the core mentality of a game developer, which is creativity, communication, and what you got into it was just always passion of gaming. Whether that passion was started from creating a profit, or whether that passion was becoming a rock star, like some of these other game developers, or making the best game you could possibly do. Those passions are the reason why we all started into gaming, and that's a shared trait we have. Same with creativity and communication. All of these core traits, though all simple concepts, if you continue to work on it, you will continue to see more and more improvements and more ideas coming out freely. The less of that you do, the less ideas, the less creative, the less chances you are able to have.
Yep. I don't know what else I could add to that. you hit it perfectly. Other than saying this is something to print up and post on your wall or next to your mirror when you get up every morning to brush your teeth. This is a good bullet list of what you should remind yourself while you're making games every day.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So not just what it takes to stay in the game industry, but what it takes to stay in the game, period. Right?
And you could take this article, sure it talks about gaming, but you could apply it for the construction working.
Yep.
You need to manage something, so what got you into working in construction? Farming. You need to be creative where you place your plants, or else you will have a spoiled crops. All of these things can be applied into different fields as long as you know what you got in there in the first place. So if you're listening to this and you're not a gamer, but you want to go into something else, this is a great article for you. Anything from Gamma Sutra is a great article for you guys.
Yeah, Gamma Sutra, those guys are awesome. Okay, that is what it takes to stay in the game industry. GammaSutra.com. Final article of the day is a sweet little indie gem and the article is on indiegamesplus.com, and the game is Delores, a thimbleweed mini park adventure game. Jack, your thoughts on this game?
So you know how Delores spelled with OS? Yeah, that's the whole game, you know, finding out how you spell Delores. Yeah. Nah. Jokes aside, it's mainly about the experiences that we all have going to our first theme parks and our first ideal vacation. You know what, Mr. You take it from here.
Okay, sure. So in Delores, and this is a follow-up to the Thimbleweed Park game, and what you're doing is you're just going around the game taking pictures of people and backgrounds and things like that, and this falls right into the same genre and experience as games like Animal Crossing, you know, casual games that I've been researching a lot about casual games of recently, and that's how I came across this. And yeah, you are going around just taking pictures as a photographer, again taking a possibly mundane experience and transforming it into a gaming context, and now it becomes this whole other really cool escapist, relaxation, meditative gaming experience.
But also, you you gain like that appeal of like, oh, your first summer job, your first time you walking. Most of the time, a lot of people is walking either at like a water park or with their family, and often it's mundane jobs like this, like taking a picture over and over again for people who will probably swear at you for not taking a picture correctly. Like, as much as these are mundane, these are core emotions and elements that we all had in common in one point in our lives. Whether that be going to work for the first time, grabbing the bus for the first time, or taking a picture for the first time.
I remember there was a game called Tree where it chronicles the life of a boy until adulthood. So this is a game, the boy goes out and he plants like a seed, and the seed grows into a tree, and then in the game you just keep going back to this tree, and you get older and older, and you graduate high school, you go back to the tree's now older and older, and then you start a family, you bring your family to the tree, and the tree gets bigger and bigger, and then your family members die, you go back to the tree, and it keeps showing like different stages of this tree until you become an old man, and then pass on, and the tree is still there. The reason why I'm mentioning that is because reviewing the site and me thinking about the tree game sparked an idea about creating.
This is not a game concept.
Yeah, it's a game concept. It's fine.
Okay.
But
okay.
Just where the game is called, like Summer Job, and you play maybe 4 years of high school taking summer jobs, but it's the same character every year at different summer jobs. So you play like working at like a water park, and like how horrible or how amazing the experience is dealing with people at the water park. And then maybe the next year you're working at like a fast food place, and then dealing with the people that are in the fast, but it's still the same character, and you create skills based on the previous job. And maybe there's like repeated customers that went to the water park that you told something to, that got really pissed off. Like you're like, somebody dropped something in the water, and they're like, I need you to go get my watch that, fell into the pool or whatever. And then you're like, no, you get it. But they remember that when you're running the fast food place or, whatever. I think it'd be really, really cool. Again, exploring mundane things in an interesting light.
Mm-hmm.
Be really cool. Okay, that was Delores takes pictures to solve silly puzzles in a strange town. IndieGamesPlus.com. All right, and that was our last article. So now we have a question, and this is by Alex. So please send your questions, comments to Jack. theboardstate@gmail.com. That is theboardstate@gmail.com.
I legit kind of just, my brain went blank for a good second.
All good. So you can send us comments, questions to theboardstate@gmail.com. Okay, this question is, since the coronavirus lockdown, what is the one thing you had to change to keep your game design group, to keep your game designing going? By Alex. So what is one thing you had to change, Jack? One thing that we had to change.
Okay, one thing we had to change was actually use Discord and use like all of these other things that because before this whole pandemic thing, we were very pro, like, the only way you could get stuff done is by face-to-face, like, and we did a lot of good work beforehand, but ever since we changed up with using Discord more and in-face talking, we've been expanding to more options and more opportunities. So like, as much as this pandemic was a bad thing for all of us, it also allowed us to see like a lot of the problems or issues we had beforehand, and a lot of the solutions that we had already. We just was arrogant enough to not go into it.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's a big thing. Another thing is the hours. Yeah, we've been almost every other day we've been talking. So it could go up for 4 hours, 5 hours to 2 hours. So yeah, that's another thing in game development. No matter what you do, even after the pandemic, you're gonna have to deal with. But thanks to this pandemic, it allows me to at least for me as a person, because I'm technically still in high school. I'm gonna graduate legit next week. So just allowing me to have this more experience, because in college when I was taking classes, I never had to deal with different hours, different times. It was always we talk during class, or we talk after class. Never let's talk at 2 o'clock.
Yep. Okay. Yes. So I just wanted you hit everything, all the changes that we've had to adapt to in this new environment. I just wanted to highlight the word change for a minute, and what is the one thing you had to change to keep your game designing group going? And change may seem like a bad or negative thing that has negative connotations, but I think change, when viewed at a certain angle, is a very positive thing, right? So because of change, we've been able to essentially accelerate our design processes for gaming. And we're seeing that directly with this game that we're working on called Ha'avina. And I think it's going to be a little plug here, but I think it'll be the best game that we've made so far. And I think a lot of the output of that result is directly related to the change that we have adopted in part of our design process.
And change, no matter what, will instill a legacy for the future to follow. For example, Apple made computables portable and unique, so that way more people get onto computing. So now we have podcasts, and now we have YouTube, and now we have that. If it wasn't for Apple company cycle to lead on this whole development cycle to make portable laptops and computers unique and available for the masses, we wouldn't have this whole tech revolution. We wouldn't have Halo. We wouldn't have Xbox, PS4. We wouldn't have Tabletop Simulator. All of these things were taken for granted. It all started because people were either afraid or forced to go for change. But after that change, all of a sudden we are more better off of it. So,
right, well said.
Now to the listeners, what's your thoughts on this?
Sure, right. Okay. That will do it for today's cast. Any closing comments, Jack?
Keep safe, keep washing your hands, keep wearing masks. Even though you may live in an area that's been cleared already, just keep on doing it for now, so we all could get through this together, and we all don't have to kill each other for toilet paper again.
Alright. Okay, that's going to do it. Thank you for listening, everyone.